Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly update for Friday, February 19th. And thanks again, as always, for joining me. And this update is going to be relatively short. It's been a short week, but I am also going to take advantage to go over some enrollment data and information in terms of our planning for next year. And so if you can provide the time and stay with me probably a little bit longer than usual. Hopefully the time will be well spent and I can shed some light on some of the conversations we're having and our planning for next year. So with that being said, you can see the graphic behind me. We definitely had our first big heavy snow of the year, Tuesday, our first official snow day that we had to call. And I know that's always a nice treat. And I know everybody was able to enjoy that day and stay safe and get their driveways cleared off. And as you can see behind me, I want to honor our custodial group. That's Mrs. Beatty, Nancy Beatty from Navigator to my left, and to my right is Dwayne Davis from Pathfinder. And our crew has done an amazing job. Our whole team, custodial team and maintenance team throughout the district with COVID this year, and helping keep everybody safe and helping us with all the materials, the PPE for our staff and for our students. And on top of that, when the snow comes and they're ready to report early in the morning to do an amazing job, making sure when we returned on Wednesday, everything was as clear as possible. And kudos to them. Once again, these are just two members of a great team that we have here at Pinckney Community Schools, and wanted to take a minute to recognize them and all the hard work they've done behind the scenes. They're definitely kind of the unsung heroes in a lot of ways on a normal basis, but especially with COVID. So just want to extend that and start off this presentation with that acknowledgement today. So with that, let's jump right in really quick. COVID updates. Things are continuing to improve and move in the right direction. Statewide, the rate of infection is currently 3.8%, which is fantastic. And here in Livingston County is 4.1%. And these numbers we haven't seen really since last August, before we even started school. And that trajectory is continuing to decrease each and every week. So we're excited about that. Some of the levels are actually changing based on the numbers and the numbers per million. And we're moving in the right direction along with the vaccination process that's occurring throughout the state. So let's keep it up. Let's keep the hard work with everything that we're doing. Here at Pinckney Community Schools, we had one positive case reported to us earlier this week, and it was a student at Pathfinder School. But overall, things are continuing to move in a very positive direction. We only have, I would say, approximately less than 20 students quarantined in the district. That's tied directly to that positive case there at Pathfinder. Last week, we started wrestling, and with that, we had our administration of our own antigen test that we have to do before the wrestling meets, and that was both on Friday and Saturday. And all students cleared that and tested negatively. So we're excited about that process as well. So a lot of good things that are occurring in the district, and along with just the continuing teaching and learning that's happening face-to-face and with our PVA program. And speaking of the PVA program, I do want to let you know that we are looking for another opportunity for parents to return to face-to-face if they so choose. And we're looking at the start of the fourth quarter for that. That'll provide kind of the last 9-week leg of the school year for students to enter back in the classroom. And we're going to provide information. Building principals will do that as we approach closer to that timeline. That begins right after spring break. I believe that date's around April 5th. And so that would be the fourth quarter. And we know we already have parents who are inquiring about wanting to get their kids back in the classroom. Obviously, there's a big push throughout the state, especially those schools who haven't offered face-to-face throughout this year, to do that by March 1st. And so we definitely want to get kids back here, as many as possible, and for those who feel comfortable in preparation for next year. So I want to back up just a little bit. Vaccinations, continuing to do the very best that we can, working in partnership with the Livingston County Health Department. Right now, there is a possibility that a clinic that we had scheduled for Saturday, which is the 20th of February, which was a clinic that was going to give the second dose. It's our first clinic for the second dose of the vaccinations. and may have to be canceled because of the weather that we're hearing and we're reading a lot about this occurring throughout this country. And we're definitely seeing that have an impact on the transportation of the vaccines, and that's being felt here in Michigan and even more specifically in Livingston County. So health department is waiting as long as they possibly can to see if they can get the vaccinations in. And if we can't, we're simply going to reschedule that for next Saturday with it will be no negative impact on those who are receiving that vaccination. So they're going to do everything they can to keep this ball moving forward. Still handcuffed a little bit about just the middle amount of vaccines that we are receiving in this county, and they're lobbying at the state level for Livingston County and for everybody, especially for our educators here. So kudos to the Livingston County Health Department. They're doing the very best they can, and I'm proud to be able to work once again in collaboration with them throughout this entire process. So one more thing, just want to touch base with high school as we prepare for the end of the year. We're hearing some things and hearing some rumors that I want to clarify regarding end of the year events, and we've heard some parents and some on social media saying, hey, everything's just going to be canceled in terms of prom or maybe any kind of ceremonies, graduation. And I hope that that our past practice is that we've done everything we can to provide meaningful experiences for our students. Going back to our graduation, we're the only school in Livingston County offered a full graduation, even though it was in our parking lot. We had our kids there, they were outside. It was a fantastic experience. And obviously we're offering face-to-face school in Livingston County as well. So anything we can do to honor our students, provide the experience, we're gonna do that. We're planning on our graduation to occur on Saturday, June 5th at our Pirate Stadium outside. It worked really well, but we want our parents in the stands, our kids on the football field, and we got a lot of positive feedback about having our graduation on campus last year. So we're looking forward to having that. The rain date would be the Sunday, the June 6th, but we're hoping the weather will cooperate and we'll be able to take care of that. The group at the high school is already working with how we can do a prom, taking advantage of maybe some outdoor venues and just being creative. We're going to maximize every opportunity we can, and that's our lens that we're looking at every experience for our students, especially our seniors who are graduating in 2021. So just wanted to put that out there. Any questions or concerns, I would say, please feel free to contact Ms. McBride, Ms. Woods at the high school, and they can help clarify or answer any questions or even maybe take some suggestions, and they're always looking for help as well. So moving forward, as I stated in the beginning of this presentation, I just want to take advantage of this time to provide kind of some clarity about next year enrollment. If you've been here and part of our Pinckney Pirate family for some time, has been a challenge. Dynamics of our community has changed dramatically over the past 10 years in terms of just the number of students that we have here, just the age dynamics that are changing and shifting. And obviously there's a lot of different factors that play into enrollment, from school choice to charter schools to homeschooling, especially in the year of COVID. And enrollment drives a lot of our decision making because that's where our revenue comes from. And we have to take a look at our staffing resources and our facilities and every facet. Our transportation runs really starts with an accurate sense of where we're going to be from student enrollment next year. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of just some of the conversations we're having in the process and some numbers. So I think being transparent with this helps alleviate some concerns and maybe some false perceptions that people have. And so I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing my screen. And so I'm going to put this up here for you. And I don't want to rush through this. So this is going to take a little time. So once again, the advantage of doing this in videos that people can stop and watch it later. And it's also go back for reference as well. So, but what you see in front of you is a spreadsheet with a lot of numbers, and I'll walk you through really what this represents. And so first off, you're going to see things color coded, and that's really kind of how our buildings are kind of broken up in terms of our kindergarten to third grade, 4th through 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then the high school. And you're going to see moving through the columns from left to right, we have this year's enrollment. So this is pretty accurate as of just a couple weeks ago for each grade level, and then the total that you see here. And this next column is important to understand is all I did here with this next column was move each grade forward. So we call that just attrition. Just the students we have currently in kindergarten, or let's say in first grade, they're going to come in the second grade, and then second grade goes to third grade goes to fourth grade, so on and so forth. And so that's just moving students along to the next stage in their educational career. Obviously, with kindergarten, we don't know exactly what we're going to get because we have kindergarten enrollment, things that sort. So, but we've been pretty consistent. So I've kept it very similar, just a couple minor changes from that aspect. So by just moving students forward, and then and then obviously our 12th graders graduate, we take a look at that as a starting point. And with just moving students forward, and you can see the changes that are impacted by that, we're expected to lose 80 students. And this is if everybody who we have stays, and then we don't receive any new students. And so we know that's not going to happen, but it's just a good starting point for us. And so if everything just stayed exactly how it is, moving every kid forward, no new families move in, no families move out, we're expected to lose 80 students. And I'll show you kind of the financial impact of that in another tab here in just a second. So that's kind of our starting point when we're looking at things. But we know that's not reality. There's a lot of variances that play into student enrollment. This next set of data that I just want to touch on really quick is what is a tool that we use in the educational world, and we've been using it for several years, and it's actually mandated from the Department of Treasury for us to take a look at, and it's called Middle Cities. It's a really detailed report. It's about a 30-page report that we get with a lot of different information, and it looks at enrollment projections, and it takes a look at trends from the past 5 years, takes into consideration the birth rate here in the county in our area, and then just a lot of different factors in the algorithm, and they provide enrollment predictions for us. And they give us 3 different what's called methods or models, and everyone's a little bit different, a little bit variance. And then as you see here, the MC is the middle cities. This is method 1, method 2, and then moving to column 3, J is method 3. Method 1 is kind of the most severe. It's kind of the worst case scenario. And that is, I need to let you know, that is what we have been tasked to use, because when you do not use the kind of the worst case scenario, what happens is you may not budget appropriately, and then once the school year starts, you can be put in a position where you are going to lose revenue because of just not accurate budgeting and forecasting of student enrollment, and it can really make things even more difficult moving forward. And so what we've been asked to do from Department of Treasury, and we agree, is to use method 1, which provides kind of the worst case scenario. And when we're forecasting, our mindset is we're going to plan for the worst and hope for the best, because it's always easier to add and make those adjustments. And so this year was an example of that. We planned for the worst, and we actually are 78 students better than what we planned for. And in fall, we actually had to add some teachers back. And that's a little bit easier to do. It is still a little bit disruptive, but it's much more difficult to make any cuts when school does start and classes get going, and teachers are building relationship with kids and becoming part of the school community. So so that is kind of the mindset that we are going to use. And when you do look at the middle cities, what we're looking for is trends as well, and what matches up with what we're seeing on our end from natural attrition to what the middle cities is projecting in their reports. And you can see, like in 3rd grade, the trend is actually pretty consistent across the board, and with a little bit of variance. 4th grade, same thing. The 8th grade, I'll jump down here. You can see there's some patterns that we're looking at, and then through the high school as well. Definitely some trends that you're seeing through the high school piece. And so we look at this and we're saying, okay, how do we have to adjust our staffing, our human resources. Human resources is largest expenditure for any school district, and the average across state is 80% of our revenue goes to human resources, because we're a human resource dependent profession. It's not dependent on books, and even though in technology those things are important, the primary dependency is on human resources in an educational setting. And so that's what we use to start driving our decisions for planning for next year. And then you can see from Model 1, given the changes here, is this would give us a loss of 97 students, but in comparison to where we're at today, which is 2,333, and you subtract the number of 2199, that gives us a net loss of 134 students. So, and you can see the numbers for Model 2 and then Model 3 as well. And as I said, taking a look at the worst case scenario and starting from there and planning. So what I'm saying is we're using Model 1, the loss of 134 students, to start helping us formulate our decisions for staffing for our budget for next year. Because once again, working in partnership with Department of Treasury, that is the expectation and really the charge that they've given us. So I'm going to go ahead and shift to the next kind of just slide here. And what I've done here is just very similar. I don't have the middle cities data. They don't do it per building. It's all grade level. So I just I took a look at our buildings for both Country and Farley, and same thing. It's just a natural attrition of moving our numbers forward from each grade level, and then you can see the impacts there. And I'm not going to go through those, but really the data that I have below I think is important to touch upon. So going back to the original number of 80 students, and I said when we're moving students forward and everything stayed status quo, didn't change, and we lost 80 students. If we multiply that times the current foundation allowance, which is $8,111, that is a net loss of $648,880, and so almost $649,000. So right off the bat, just by keeping everything the way it is and the same, we're set to lose that amount of money. But if we look at the middle cities at 134 students and multiply that times the same amount, now we're looking at roughly a little bit over $1 million, which is significant. And so that's kind of like, that's the complication you have with student enrollment. And once again, this isn't a reflection of the school district, of teachers. This is just the changing dynamics of our students and moving them through a K-12 system. So, when we look at that and say, okay, the human resource component, and obviously teachers are our primary resource. We're working directly with students each and every day. So we have to take and make sure we make the adjustments in the classroom first and foremost. And if you take 80 students and just using 30, let's say 30, and I know that's high for elementary, but we'll just use 30 and divide that, already looking at a reduction of 2.6 staff. But if we look at the middle cities and you take 134 and divide it by 30, that gets you up to about 4.4 staff. And then I would do like a class size of 25, because once again, if you're looking at elementary, that's usually a good gauge as well. So 134 students divided by 25, now you're looking at about 5.36 staff to accommodate the student loss. And so that's taking a look at the number of students we no longer have and adjusting the staff accordingly. So through this, what we're starting at as of today, which is once again February 19th, is we're going to be looking at a reduction of 5 instructional staff members for next year, and to accommodate that. Now that's just a starting point. That could change. It could decrease, which we do hope it does, because if our enrollment gets higher, we have to adjust for that. Unfortunately, if the enrollment loss is even greater, we're going to have to adjust for that as well. And I don't anticipate that happening. But so the 5 staff members is really our starting point. And what I do want to let people know too is, because I know they worry about it, last year was a really difficult situation where we had to lay off approximately 22, 23 staff members and teachers. We had to do that in anticipation of potential losses given COVID, and also just we had to, what I call it, rip that Band-Aid off and get to a point where we're going to make significant gains with our deficit. We want to give positive contracts for all our employees, and it puts us in a position where the decisions we're making are going to have greater impact on us moving forward. And we're seeing that this year already, some really positive gains. And right now, the fact that we only have to minimize by 5 instructional staff in a classroom is representative of that, because in the past, it's the lowest it's ever been. We've never had that low number. It's always been 8 to 12 around that range, which is really tough to do. But we're also very confident that we can reduce 5 staff members through attrition. And when I say that, talking through our teachers who are retiring, we already have a number who've already committed to retiring for next year, and we anticipate we'll get more as the year progresses. We have teachers who just have to change, districts, careers, We have one staff member we know that her spouse is probably going to be moving out of state, and so she's going to obviously be joining him. And so things happen. That's life, and it happens in every district, and we take advantage of that. So the long and short of it is we're not looking to lay anybody off. That was a really painful process. We are looking to hopefully never have to do that again. That any reductions that we have in staff can just be done through the natural attrition of people leaving the district through retirement, through, like I said, maybe job changes or changing location of where they're going to work. So we're hopeful about that. We're pretty confident we can make that work. Sometimes that comes with people shifting buildings or being relocated. Teachers can teach in various grade levels, and so that's a natural part of having to adjust staffing as well. But once again, so as of today, we're going to look at the 5 staff members from levels. We're going to be looking at 3 from the high school. You saw those numbers there. That's our greatest reduction. 3 from the high school, 1 at the middle school level, and 1 at the elementary level. And once again, things could change. This is a starting point. This just starts our conversation. We have to adjust and come back and change. We had this conversation last year in February because of COVID and things. We had to make adjustments come April and May. And so I'm going to wrap this up by just kind of going over some of the cost factors of this too and the challenges of enrollment. And I've already thrown these numbers at you from the potential loss and the staff numbers. So when we're looking at trying to offset the cost, it's not a dollar for dollar, and that's what really makes it hard in education. You just can't reduce your staff enough to have a kind of a zero net impact of loss. And so if we take a look at the initial loss of $648,000, close to $649,000, and divide that by 100,000. When I say 100,000, that is a teacher who's making have a higher salary, their experience, they've been with us for a long time, along with all their ancillary benefits and things of that sort, their health care, everything that gets in the package. We'll say it's an average cost of the district of $100,000. So with that, if we divide that, it would take 6.5 staff to just kind of cancel out that loss. And that's, once again, that's directed to 80 students. And so even with the 5 minimizing, we can't wipe even that cost out, which means that we have to look at other ways to save money, from transportation to all our services we provide, our efficiencies, to making sure that we're maximizing everything from our utilities to gas, and we look at every single avenue. There's no rock that's unturned, looking for cost savings. So when we look at the middle cities and we use that 134 and you multiply that, and obviously that was a big number of over $1 million, to wipe that amount out would take almost 11 staff, and that's just not feasible. There's just no way we can do that. And that's the problem, that when you are combating enrollment loss, is it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of time to continually chip away. And there's a lot of costs that continue outside our control that we have to absorb. And this year, COVID, even though we got some COVID money, there's still additional costs that the district, you just have to absorb. And there's retirement costs that are outside of our control in terms of rates and insurance and health insurance and all of those things. And so you do your best to plan. We want to continue to make sure that we provide great opportunities for our students, for our community. We want this to be a destination district, destination community in Livingston County. And so, all those things are factored in. But these are just kind of the numbers and the starting point of our work in planning for our budget for next year. There's a lot of good news that's occurring in terms of where we're at. We've had the best year enrollment. We've had a great year with providing a various number of learning opportunities for our community. Just a tremendous amount of support and I hopefully trust, as we've been transparent. I've been sharing these weekly messages with you. And if you have any questions about any of this, always feel free to contact me, because some of this can get pretty complex, and I didn't go in as great detail as I could have, because once again, I'm trying to keep this a little bit shorter than it could be, because this is good information. But I'm going to continue sharing information as we progress through this planning period, because I think as you're informed and you understand decisions we have to make and things we have to consider, and we do have to consider, how we operate the district, how we provide instruction, all our facilities, everything we do. Because our district, I think in the next 4 or 5 years, we're probably going to settle around 2,000 students. I think we see it flatlining. We see things really slowing down in the next 4 or 5 years. And I think Pinckney Community Schools will be a nice district of 2,000 students, which is still one of the larger school districts in the state of Michigan, because the average size of a district is about 1,300. And 2,000 is a nice sized district. We provide things that others cannot in terms of just the size. Not everybody wants their students to go to a high school of 2,000 students. And if we have a high school that's 650, 700, I think there's a lot of advantages to that. There's a lot of advantages to what I would call having an intimate learning environment, which means we know our students, we know our parents, we know the values, we know, how best to support one another. And it really embraces that community sense. And so I always go back to that tagline: we're going to be mighty but strong, and we're seeing evidence of that. And there's nothing that we can't do when we work together, we work collectively, and we understand that there's tough decisions to make, but we're making them all for the right reasons. And that's to be a thriving school district for our students and for our community. And so once again, thank you for joining me. As I'll stop sharing my screen at this point. And as always, follow up with me with a phone call, through an email, and I'd be more than happy to spend some more time talking with you. So have a great weekend. I appreciate the time that you spent. This is definitely a much longer presentation, but this information is important, and we'll look to continue to keep you informed as we progress through the decision-making process for the rest of this school year and for the upcoming school year ahead. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.